Hello and welcome wherever you may be on the planet of plunder. I'm probably not in my right mind today. You'll have to excuse me, and if it's not what you want, please call again. I had a morning when so many things went wrong one after the other, and I've been working on some very intense, deep and dark things inside of me, and they're frothing around me, and I'm sure I'm getting a negative response from the world. But that's how it is if you want to work with deep stuff. And this whole idea that you can stop being negative and somehow everything is going to get fixed is very childish. If you want to fix things, you've got to go down. You've got to go down, you've got to go in, and you've got to go well armed, and you've got to do some work. That's the price you've got to pay. And yet last night I was overcome with strange joy. And I was walking back through town and feeling quite disturbed in my mind, but I relaxed my forehead, and suddenly I could feel the field of my body becoming active and perceiving the world. Perceiving the world not through the organs of perception, but through the higher being bodies. And I noticed this week strangely that they actually bisect the head. There's as much head above the eyes as there is below. But it doesn't seem like that, because normally we are identified with the character in our face, and the face stops at the eyebrows. And that shows you where the evolution will go, if you're able to escape from this world, which is a very, very, very difficult thing to do. The world is ever more materialized, and ancient civilizations that have been here for thousands of years are getting suddenly blown up. The Okinawa is thin, and people fall into materialization. 5 minutes on social media and your mind is broken by the deluded rantings of the stupidest people on the planet. The energy is bad, and you've got to be very much aware of that. If the energy flows back into you, suddenly you will start feeling and thinking and seeing new possibilities. But you've got to remember that that is just one-dimensional energy, and the real hope does not come from one-dimensional energy. I wasn't sure what I was going to read out today, and I dug through some of the Ouspensky Today website and pulled out some old papers from some groups in the 70s and so on. And I started to read them out, and I realized that these guys didn't really know what they were talking about. I'll read a bit of one that I pulled out at random yesterday. It says, "What are the laws on which pure consciousness is based? The most important is the law of three." And what is the law of three? It's one of the most fundamental laws of the universe. For anything to happen, for any event to take place, 3 different states of matter have to come together. What do you mean by states of matter? Matter, any kind of matter, can be in an active state or a passive state, or it could be in a neutral state. Matter in an active state is highest in level, matter in a passive state is lowest, and matter in a neutral state is intermediate. Only when these 3 states of matter come together does anything happen, does an actual event take place. What is an example of that? Well, take the process of evaporation in the biosphere. Water, the water over the Earth's surface, is in a passive state. Radiation from the sun is active. It causes the water to evaporate, and water vapor is the 3rd or neutral state. It forms into clouds and eventually precipitates over the Earth's surface in the form of rain. The water is distilled and purified. As we know, it is essential for plants and has life-giving properties. So is distilling the whole process? Separating fine matter from coarse? Yes, there are many similar processes, but the point is that it has a certain order. It starts with matter in a passive state and follows with matter in an active state, ending with matter in a neutral state. And the end product is higher in level than the matter from which it started. Yes, but there has to be matter on a very high level in between, what is sometimes called a cracking agent in certain industrial processes. That's quite interesting. What I would say is that the third is caused by the interaction of the first two, by their struggle against each other. That's the most important thing. If a man and a woman are willing to struggle against each other, then from the two of them emerges love. And love is at a higher level. In the same way, the mental center and the moving center struggle against each other, and the emotional network is created. It is in fact a kind of intelligence that is caused by the struggle. Without that struggle, there's nothing there apart from what has been mechanically created. And the result of struggle is the only thing that lives. It is a living current. It is the only thing that is not decaying and brings in the light of a higher world. The evaporation of surface water on the earth is a little bit like our breathing. We breathe in and breathe out, and there's a certain transmutation of materials that happens, but it doesn't cause a change in the being of the organism. It is a surface transmutation. There are many very important things that are missed out in this simplistic model. For instance, to open the space for the interaction between the active and passive, a certain clearing has to take place, and there must be a kind of soup of love or something. So both the man and woman have to be in good state and to represent their type, and they have to prepare a space for their tryst, and in that space they have to struggle. Quite a lot of things have to happen to make that happen. And if you go speed dating, there's a certain steamy context has been created within which things can sparkle more easily. And that should be society. It's just that the society we live in is highly depleted and people no longer look to heaven. I think particularly in the Western world there are many things that happen today, but ultimately they don't know how to fix their problems. They no longer have a meaning and a purpose and a quest. The West was always a quest, but the quest was completed. But once you have everything, what else are you going to do? So they built Victorian pleasure parks and strolled around, and they didn't need anything else, and eventually it turned sour, and that's where we've arrived today. But the thing is that you can get a new quest from heaven. You have to speak to heaven, you have to immerse yourself in heaven, and you will be given a new task to do. And that's what the West needs. It needs a new task because it has completed the old task. That's what we need to do. This morning I had to stick a piece of foil behind a radiator, and I had some double-sided sticky tape, and the heat of my hand was making it dissolve into countless small white sticky pieces. It was just disgusting. I mean, it took me half an hour to strip it off with methylated spirits and get it out of the pores of my hand. Typical thing with stuff made from China. I mean, these people must be so small-minded that they shave off 1/7 of a pence on a roll of tape And that's the result, absolute garbage. And sometimes people look to China as some sort of model of the future, and they show these glossy skyscrapers all lit up with rainbow colours. Well, you know that these things have just been sprayed up with concrete. And you can have millions or even billions of people making concrete roads and concrete skyscrapers, and it doesn't require any skill at all. There's no individuality in it. Machine world. They don't have any skill inside of them. That is a difference between a civilization and a non-civilization. Originally, there was one man on this planet, and his energy circulation was so divine that it provided all the energy required. But that power has descended and cascaded into, for instance, the medieval European world and the modern world, and there will be a world coming where people will be reduced into large masses. Millions and billions of them together will be able to do something, but no longer one man. It's a different energy circuit. Tai Chi, like Catholicism, are arts that come from a previous energy circuit, a higher energy circuit. And it is hard for people to connect with what they mean. A couple of other things. I saw this photo of Audrey Hepburn and Grace Kelly, and this is an AI generated image. And you can see that their hands vanish. And it seems to me that this technology is just nonsense. I've seen quite a few bits of AI, and they're all like this. They have major errors in them. And I think it'll turn out a lot like the vax. People will make billions out of it, but it's really a fake technology. And this is an interesting graph that shows how the debt, this time the national debt of the United States, has grown over the last 25 years, and how at the same time the total wealth of billionaires has grown sort of almost exactly the same rate. Because what's happening here is that nothing new is being created. There is simply crooked mechanisms for transferring wealth from the majority of people into the pockets of a few people, and these complex mechanisms, take place in New York and stuff like that. And I don't believe that these miracle technologies we hear about today are meaningful. I've got a long section now about the Chinese immortals, the Fangshi, and it is wrapped in the typical mythological stories. I know it's not everybody's taste. I will end with that though, and I will thank you for visiting. Please take care. From the biography of Quan Lu. The prefect of Qingho, Hesi Qilong, styled Kaiming, was a talented and a capable man. When he met with Lu, the two of them discussed how when the dragon moves, the auspicious clouds arise, and when the tiger calls, the valley winds arrive from the east, taking Antares to be the dragon and Triaster to be the tiger. When Antares comes out, the clouds respond, and when Triaster appears, the winds arrive. This is a matter of the interacting changes of yin and yang, not things brought about by dragons and tigers. Lu explained, given the difficulty of this discourse, we should first investigate its roots, and only then seek after the basic principles. If the principles are lost, then the bowstring will be faulty, and a faulty bowstring begets honour and disgrace. By the standard correspondences, if we take Trieste to be the tiger, then the east winds will be cold and frosty. But the east winds are not cold and frosty. That condition prevails because the dragon is originally of yang essence, but submerged in his position it is yin. So the dark spirit forces penetrate upwards and move the spirits with harmonious qi. They stir each other, and therefore they can raise the clouds. Now the tiger is of yin essence, but at this time it is residing in yang. Resting in the trees it gives a long roar, then moves about the gentle forest. The yin and yang penetrate each other, and their qi interacts. Thus the winds are circulated. In the same manner, when lodestone draws iron, you cannot see its spirit, but the metal does come, apparently of its own accord. Mutual attraction brings about the predictable response. How could one doubt that the dragon, changing from a submerged state to flight, and the tiger moving from camouflaged rest into the open, could summon the clouds and call the winds? Qilong responded, "Now when the dragon is in his depths, his influence cannot extend further than the bottom of a well, and when a tiger utters his baneful cry, he is heard for only 100 paces in the forest. Their manifest forms and their qi are shallow and weak, reaching only the immediate surroundings. How can they raise the luminous clouds or set in motion the east winds?" Lu said, "You, sir, have not seen the power of yin and yang, collecting mirrors, when held in the palm of someone's hand. Without leaving the confines of the hand, the yang mirror draws down the fire of the ultimate yang, the sun, and the yin mirror draws water from the ultimate yin, the moon. In the time of a single breath, vapor and light gather. Then the celestial correlates suspended above, if the essential qi is stimulated, will respond to the two mirrors. If they are not correctly stimulated, then it is a case of the two younger daughters living together, aspirations frustrated. According to the way of nature, there is no real separation between far and near." Qilong then queried, "When war is about to break out in the world, it is presaged in the calls of cocks and pheasants. By what means do they have such knowledge? Also, are there other omens, or are they limited to these two?" Lu responded, "When something of moment happens to an important person, there is a response in the heavens, and that means among the sun, moon, stars, and planets. When armies move and the people suffer, there is a response from terrestrial things, and that means among the mountains, forests, birds, and the beasts. Now the cock is the domestic creature associated with the Louis trigram, related to metal, and metal is the essence of the martial. The pheasant is the bird associated with the E trigram, and wild beasts are the spirit of warriors. Thus, when great white Venus sends out its brilliant light, the cock calls, and when the sparkling deluder Mars traverses the skies, the pheasant is startled. Each moves in response to the order of things. Also, it is the divine way that martial elements are displayed in the 6 Chia celestial phenomena. When the 6 Chia push against each other, it portends an unusual happening. For example, when the bellowing of an ox came from the coffin of Duke Wen of Qin, there followed the attack of the Western armies. During the Hong Jie period of Emperor Cheng, giant boulders made a thunderous din, and war soon followed. Portents of war do not attach themselves exclusively to chickens and pheasants. Qilong further inquired, "During the 8th year of Duke Chao of Liu, a stone spoke in the state of Qin. Music master Kuang interpreted this to mean that the administration of affairs was not in keeping with the times, that complaints and mumblings were circulating among the people, and therefore something which ordinarily does not speak did in fact speak out. Does this accord with the principles or not?" Lu replied, "Duke Ping of Qin was extravagant and self-indulgent, placing the highest priority on the embellishment of his chambers and palaces. He decimated the forest trees and depleted the gold and precious stones. The strength of his people was so exhausted that their resentment resounded throughout the mountains and valleys. The spirit suffered and the people were moved, and thus the two essences came into being. Metal and stone combined their qi, and then, because Tui is mouth and tongue, a mouth and tongue anomaly stirred in an animated stone. According to tradition, when a ruler disdains the common people and embellishes his buildings throughout the land, metal loses its customary malleability. That traditional explanation refers to this kind of situation." Qilong was delighted and filled with admiration. He kept Lu as his guest there for several days. Lu's prognostication of the hunt was soon verified, and Qilong said, "Sir, you are a genius who rivals the spirits, and yet you have acquired little in material wealth. How is this possible?" Lu replied, "I penetrate the divine through heaven and earth, and with milfoil stalks and turtle shells I connect to the spirit powers. I cleave to the sun and the moon, and journey to the dark and mysterious, reach the ultimate of permutations and transformations, and foresee all the future. This being the case, should I approach gross material things and becloud the clarity of my understanding?" Qilong laughed at this. "Not only are you immodest, sir, but your thoughts are confined to the very short range." Lu replied, "If you, sir, are incapable of recognizing truly modest talk, what possible means do you have to discuss the way? In fact, when I speak of heaven and earth, I refer to the trigrams Qian and Kun. When I speak of the milfoil stalks and turtle shells, I mean the systems of divination by counting and crack reading. When I speak of the sun and moon, I mean the emblems of Yi and Kan. When I speak of the permutations and transformations, I mean the interactions of yin and yang. By the dark and mysterious I refer to the source of divine transformations, and by the future I mean the front edge of the dark and mysterious. These all constitute the inner structures of the Book of Changes. In what way does that statement make me immodest?" After this exchange, Qilong collected some 13 objects in an effort to confound Lu in a game of shoot for the contents. But with every shot Lu hit the mark. Finally, Qilong exclaimed in admiration, "What the poets call a sage, and what the writers call enlightened, must surely refer to such a person." It's a great joy, to as if travel to another universe and listen to the wisdom that was born from a different part of the world. And I'm very grateful for it. I can barely believe that it even exists on this planet. Thank you for visiting. Please take care.